Hey you, wherever you are in the world right now, thank you so much for being here with me. We know that we're living in some crazy times and we know that the world is changing. So let's create a bridge as we travel through one another's countries, removing all the labels and just coming together as one people in this one world. And as we do this is why our signature talk today is so important. Today, I am welcoming my guest speaker, Priscilla George. Hi, Priscilla.
Hi there.
Thank you for being on the show today. And Priscilla comes to us from Baltimore, Maryland, here in the United States. And she is a nature painter, a creativity coach, and she spent the last 7 years as a full-time artist and really has been in this lifelong creative process, which brings her to her mission to help women embody their true creative selves and also create art that conveys the magical beauty of this world. I love this connection that you have with, nature and, the creative part of your inner self. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And for our audience, I think they're going to really get some impact from our conversation today. So I really appreciate you being on the show, Priscilla. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay. So I hear a little ding in the back. Is there somebody with you?
Yes, I have a little tiny parakeet, Popcorn. So he likes to ring his bell. He also talks, so you might hear mumbling in the background.
Oh, that's so great. I love birds because birds really invite nature, into our world, and they bring this happy kind of sense where we could be really down and just hearing the birds chirping, it just brings us to this space of being in summertime and having the sun shine on us. And it's just really beautiful how birds can really transform us. But let's get back to you, Priscilla. So share with the audience a little bit about your journey and how you became this nature painter.
Okay, well, I always was very creative. Even as a child, I was a very creative child, and I was always drawing and painting and making things out of other things. And that's how I spent most of my days. I was kind of very introverted and more on the loner side because I did have not the best home life. I had a father who wasn't the best of a father figure and a mother who didn't really care about that aspect. So, in order for me to kind of deal with my situation in the hands that I was dealt in life, I found this inner peace of creating things. And that's how I felt comfortable in the world and how I expressed what I wanted from life. So I would draw the things that I loved out in nature. Nature was my safe haven where I could go and see that the world was a beautiful place, even if my home itself wasn't the best. And I spent a lot of my days just sketching and journaling. I did a lot of journaling to process the things that were happening for me. And I would meditate, which is not something that kids normally do if they're not taught, but that's what I did to kind of soothe myself. As you can hear my bird talking over me, I'm so sorry. And so I did that for most of my childhood until I was able to move out, and I went to art college for a bit and got married very young. I found the love of my life at a young age. I was 19 when I got married, and we've been married ever since. So 33 now. It's been a long time. And I've just continued on with finding creativity and doing different things. There was different times in my life that I kind of switched what I did. So I wasn't always a painter. Sometimes I did jewelry and other times I knitted, but I always came back to painting eventually. And I'm just been there this whole time now, selling my artwork. And now I'm helping other women become their best creative selves and live that creative life that I aspire to live and that other women also want to live but aren't comfortable doing quite yet. So I'm trying to push them through those boundaries so they can be the creatives that they would like to be.
Yeah, and that's really amazing that you've had this process. And I relate to your story as far as, you know, the nature aspect. And
Mm.
a lot of times people think meditation, you have to be sitting in Indian style with your fingers, you know,
Mhm.
finger and thumb touching your palms up. And the reality is really a lot of meditation is really just doing something that you really love and being that creative artist in nature and painting nature. I mean, I just see so much therapeutic elements to that
Mhm.
process that you were going through, but then also how you were able to release trauma, you know, from your childhood through
Yeah.
this process. A lot of times artists really struggle with this process of creativity because they are probably their own worst critic. They're
Mhm.
constantly judging the art that they make, right?
Yeah.
So what do you say to people that are doing that?
For me, I like to tell them that the mistakes are part of the process. So if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing the process correctly. I've made tons of mistakes and I still make mistakes. The important part is that when you feel like you're not doing good with painting or drawing or creating anything, it's a journey. So you have different stages. You can't just start from day one and be a master at anything. It takes learning that skill and perfecting it, and you still never become a master because there's still always things that need to be fixed and that aren't perfect, but it's just becoming comfortable with the fact that there's always going to be imperfections, that there's always going to be mistakes and things that you could fix. You just have to acknowledge that it's a part of the process and it's going to be there for now and forever. You just kind of aim to get better the next time. So it's always having that growth mindset that what you did now is not what you'll do forever. So you just keep going for the next thing and the next thing to make it better each time.
Yeah, and I think that's just part of the change process of elevating as a human, right?
Mhm.
Like you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing and growing. So it's nice to hear that even in that place of being an artist, you can do
Mhm.
that as well. But I know for a lot of people in the world, there's a lot of kids out there that they will use drawing as an outlet for escaping what's happening in the world. Do you have any suggestions, maybe for parents, or even if there's someone, you know, that's listening that is in school right now that can help them kind of start on this road? Like, what is a good way for them to creatively draw and release some of the stress that they're feeling, or, you know, removing some of the toxins in their body? Because this is really not just about kids, this is adults too. Like they could do the same thing. So
Mhm.
how would they get started in that process? Like what did you do when you were a little girl?
Um, so getting started, it's really a lot about tapping into your natural intuition. So you just kind of have to really listen to what are the things that you're feeling pulled to. Um, Even if it's something that you don't feel like you're going to be innately good at. So if you would love to draw because you just like that simple line, then start there. But if you really love color, then get paint. If you love textural things, then get yarn or embroidery. So it's just kind of wherever you feel called to go to that and just start at the base level where you just get the information of how the tools are used and then just the very basics of whatever that craft is that you're looking towards. So it's just that one step, but also to be comfortable with the fact that whatever you start might not be something that you like, because that happens sometimes. You get excited about something and then you try it and you realize it's not what you like. So don't push that, because then it gives you that negative feeling that you're doing something that you don't really like. So if you go towards a path that you don't feel like you don't like drawing, it's too boring, then try something else and don't feel like it's wasted time, because you might get back there at another time. I mean, there's times that I've done things and I'm like, oh, I didn't like that. And then I'll come back to it later, like many years ago, from a different perspective and like it then. So it's really just about exploring and trying and listening to what you're drawn to, and just going down each of the steps a little further and a little further, and just assessing if that's what you really still love, if it makes you feel good, and continue on, and if not, put it aside and find something else that makes you feel better.
Yeah, and for kids that are listening, and if they don't have the ability to tap into some of those resources of getting, some of those materials, maybe just, having crayons or a pen and paper, and how do they get started? Like, what can they do?
It's so if you just have the bare essentials, I mean, that's fine, because creativity is about just using what's around you and piecing it together in a unique and different way. So you just use whatever you have. I mean, when I was little, I would make dolls out of tissues, not because I didn't have dolls or I wasn't given dolls. I just liked to make my own dolls, and I would use tissues and tape and just make little dolls out of those. And I just used whatever was around me when I was little. So it didn't really matter that the supplies weren't the best. I just used them whatever way I felt I could. So it's really about just trying different things and exploring and seeing how the tools can work and what things can go together and what things can't. It's, there's plenty of times that I tried to mix stuff together and I was like, well, that didn't work at all. So you don't have to have anything expensive or anything that's even art material related. Like I said, I used tissues. I would go outside and make designs with rocks and, use a stick and draw in the dirt. I just did stuff everywhere.
I can relate to that, because as you were talking, I was thinking about being underneath the big, huge maple tree and literally using rocks and digging roads in the, the ground. And the rocks were the little cars. And my brother and I would create these little made up cities where we take the cars and travel from one city to another. So I think, just the creativity process is very freeing, and it does allow you to escape from, whatever it is that you're feeling right now and go into this transformative state where you're designing and creating a new space. And for you, even the dolls, like, probably gave you some little friends to connect to and, talk to and things like that. But, as you grow and you have gone through this journey, you now take your mission to help women. And you had shared that that women have a harder time connecting to this, inner creative part of themselves. And I can say that I do see that a lot of times with women. I think women are really bogged down with a lot of responsibilities when it comes to not just their jobs, but managing their families and the responsibilities of all of what that entails. And they don't always connect with their inner selves. They kind of lose themselves in the process of, all of the responsibilities that they have. So what's some advice that you have that can really help women kind of take a deeper dive into this inner part of themselves?
So for women, I've always found, I'm a mom myself, so this is when it kind of came to realization for me that a lot of, especially mothers, lose that portion of themselves because you feel that need to take care of everyone around you, and you kind of forget to take care of yourself. And then when you do have time to take care of yourself, it feels almost like you almost feel guilt or shame for doing that, because there's so much that needs to be done, so much else that you could do that is more fitting for that time, like cleaning or chores or any of the other things that you're supposed to be doing, planning stuff. So you feel like if you drop the ball on one thing, everything's gonna fall apart. And a lot of women just don't feel like spending that time on themselves is worthy. They feel guilty, or if they want to spend time with themselves, they'll go to friends, or they'll do that sort of exterior finding themselves through friends and stuff, and not really sit with themselves and think about the things that they would like to do just themselves, and what they maybe used to do when they were younger or always wanted to do, they already just discredit themselves. So, and what else? Just a lot of women, you kind of feel like you need to be good at something from the get-go because you feel like you don't have enough time, right? Like you're so stressed about the amount of time things are going to take that you don't want to start something that you feel you're just not going to be good at, or it's, you know, something that's going to take a long time to learn. So you usually go towards things that you already know that you're good at, and not the stuff that you've always wanted to learn or do or explore, because it just feels like a waste. It's always wasting time, wasting energy. So we're trying to like keep this battery and this clock going at all times. So it's just a hard process to get people out of, to realize that taking that time for yourself to really explore yourself and really dig down deep to the things that you've wanted to do and try them out and give them the time to grow and get better at them is worthy, because they just feel like it's not worthy. They have so much else that they should do, and those things are not things that they should do.
Yeah, and I like what you said, you know, that women really don't allow themselves the time because they feel this guilt. And that deep feeling of guilt really does kind of prevent us from moving forward in a lot of ways. I mean, I talk to so many women, and I know women who are empty nesters and literally are just at a loss, like, who am I? What do I do now? I don't know, you know, who I am, what I enjoy. I don't know so many things about myself. So I think you totally hit the nail on the head as far as what you had said there. And this creative process of pulling some of this out for women, I mean, besides going into what kind of calls you, do you have any other ideas that can help women kind of connect to that inner piece of themselves, you know, to gravitate towards something that is in alignment with their authentic true self?
So a lot of the exercises that I do with these women's is basically like a brain dump, because there's always so much in our heads that it's hard to kind of filter through the noise and all the little things that are whispering in there. So I always have every woman do a brain dump where you just write out all the things that you've ever found interesting or that you've wanted to explore or you thought would be fun, even if you feel like you're not capable of doing. So I have them write all of that stuff down. And if every time they start writing it down, at first they might feel like, oh, there's not a lot that I feel interested in. But once you start writing it down, more things start popping up. And then other things give ideas to some other things that you might not have thought of in a long time. And if they're having a hard time, I like to ask them to go back to when they were a kid. Like, what did you do when you were a kid that you don't do anymore? Because usually when you're a child, you just automatically do things. So whatever you find interesting or that you feel you want to try, you just do it without judgment. So whenever I have them go back to that childhood time, they start piecing together bits that they haven't thought of in so long that they felt weren't a part of them anymore because they've, been so encompassed with their own life and taking care of everybody else. That's usually what I have them do, and it just starts sparking. I don't really have to do that much to get it going. It's all in there. You just have to listen to it.
Yeah, and it totally is. And, people in this period of time are so uncomfortable in going inward into their internal spaces that I think, this is becoming our new normal, from living in a world where everything was this external kind of space to being more of an internal space. And I just think it's so beautiful. And the fact that you're able to take, this part of a person's inner being and kind of put light on it and be able to use it in a creative way is just absolutely beautiful. And I encourage our audience to really look for ways to embrace that side of yourself, because right now with the world in the state that it's in, it's so necessary. And someone like you, Priscilla, who is a creativity coach, I mean, it's just incredible, that hand holding that you do to help people really pull this out. So thank you so much. I mean, it's really a beautiful message, and your mission is beautiful and all of it. So thank you for that. So I have one more question for you. If I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I picked it up, what would your message to the world be?
My message to the world would be that everything that you have is already within you. Because I feel like a lot of people are looking externally for all this hidden meaning to life, but it's already in there. Your purpose and your calling and the things that you're interested in doing are already inside you. You just have to listen to them.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And if there's, any kids in our audience listening, I mean, that's a powerful message for them as well, and just keep pushing through because everything will be okay. So thank you so much, Priscilla, for being with us today on the show. Greatly appreciate it, and so much gratitude. And it's interesting, we're at the end and now the bird is not talking.
I know. He has a lot to say when I talk.
Right, I heard that. So anyway, thank you again so much for being with us, and just very, very filled with gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you for having me and letting me talk about this.
And that's all we have time for today. This is Catherine Daniels from Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back. This is Catherine Daniels, and how did you enjoy our conversation about finding your true creative self? I had such a good time interviewing this particular segment of Retreat to Peace because it's something that I think a lot of women, a lot of people, children, men, they lose themselves with what it is that they are going through at the particular period of time in their life that they're experiencing. And we all have this underlayer part of our soul that we may not have tapped into. And for a lot of people, that's just difficult because they're in a space where maybe they're just very reactive to what it is that's happening in their life. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. Are you reacting? Are you being proactive or reactive with the circumstances that are happening in your life? I think one of the things that has really shaped my life to be where it is when I was younger, I was very reactive to my circumstances and situations. But a lot of times my reaction, I tried to look through the lens of being proactive. And I know that sounds very confusing. But a lot of times when we're in circumstances and we are reacting, we fail to realize the bigger picture. And in those moments, it is important that you are looking at the bigger picture and what that will mean, not only for you, but your family, your friends, and your ultimate goal in life or the journey that you'll take and what that looks like. When I was in 6th grade, so I was in middle school, I had this wonderful teacher, Mrs. Makowitz, and wherever she is in the world, if you're listening, I thank you every day. But Mrs. Makowitz was one of these teachers that she just had the heart of gold. She was just a ray of sunshine, and she made school exciting and fun. And how she did that was just bringing her true self and her energy to the classroom every single day. And it didn't matter what kind of day she was having. She was just so happy to be in front of the classroom and be in front of all of us. And you really could feel that. You could really feel her energy. You could feel her joy. You could feel the warmth and the compassion and the empathy that she held as a person. Now, for someone like me, when I was in sixth grade and even younger than that in elementary school, I have to be really honest, I was struggling. I was struggling with a lot of things. There were circumstances in my home life that when I looked at all the peers in the classroom, it just felt like they didn't have all those burdens weighing on their back. And the burdens that I had were so extensive and so confining in a way, because it really did confine me to a space that people didn't understand. People didn't understand the world or the space that I was living in. If I shared any of that, I also felt like I would be judged. I felt like I would not be liked. I would be labeled. I would look different. There were so many things. So all of that just kind of forced me to be very introverted, to be quiet and kind of separate myself away from everybody. But as I was separating myself away, I also looked around and I could pick up just changing so rapidly. I don't know the last time you really dove into what's happening in the world, but country to country, things look drastically, and they don't say that lightly, drastically different. Country to country, the people of those countries are experiencing very unique things, and it's not something that a few years ago across the board we were living in a similar space, and today we're just not. And it is very uncomfortable watching things unfold and watching things reinvent and not really sure of the direction of how things are heading. But here we go. Mrs. Makowitz says, every decision you make, every moment, is going to shape and alter the course of your life. So what decisions are you making today? Most recently, I had been thinking about a couple of things. So in the far northeast part of the United States, there's this whole section that has several states that are clustered, and they are called the New England states. And there is this one state in New England called Connecticut that is pretty small, and it's not our smallest state in the United States. That's actually Rhode Island, but it is a very small state. And I came across, well, somebody had sent me a book actually. I had come across the story of the Leatherman. Now, at first I was intrigued by this guy because I thought, okay, he's got a really unique name, something I've never heard before. And the Leatherman actually is something that my grandfather had brought up, I remember, in conversation years and years and years ago. So this book was sent to me about the Leatherman, and I thought it would be really profound to share the Leatherman's story. It's just really something that is very unique, very special in its own sense. And what I'm going to do is read the prefix of Christian Kahn's Leatherman, a Wanderer's Poem book. So it said, here's the prefix. I once heard it said that while in the womb, we are with the one we are supposed to be with. We are entwined with the one we love, the one we are intended to go through life with. But then there is a birth and separation. Most of us never find the half that we lost. A small few are lucky enough to reconnect with our one true love. Most of us wander aimlessly and find incomplete connections, bonds with people we can only but partially understand. But I am one of the lucky ones. I spent the first 40 years of my life looking for something I had lost, but I found her. There is a human yearning to form an endless bond with another person, a bond that unites two people for all of eternity. The stars must align, and all of God's coincidences must transcend the seemingly mundane word and where do we go and all of these things. And as we continue to do this, as Miss Makowitz had shared, every decision we make is shaping what happens for our life. So the Leatherman journeys 365 days a year and travels his circuit throughout Connecticut and upper New York. And the good people leave him food and help him. If you look around your life right now, how many people are in your life helping you? Maybe you could make a list just to remind yourself of how they help you. Maybe they're supporting you emotionally. Maybe they're supporting you physically. Maybe they're supporting you spiritually. There's so many ways that people are part of our village. And the Leatherman, I think, is a testament to that because he doesn't have what he wants the most, but he has a village and he has people that are supporting him and allowing him to live his authentic true self, continuing his search for his true love, but always being in his space of being okay. And even though things were hard, he still found a way to grieve and keep his hope up and just keep moving through it. So I think during times that we're feeling stress, during times that we're feeling adversity, it's really important that we continue to move through what it is that we're going through. Next week, I have a special guest speaker who is going to be coming to talk about taking advantage of our disadvantages. And it's such a powerful phrase because often we go through things and we don't really know what we're going to do in that moment in time. But Aleksandra Digesaro is going to be with us. She's going to talk all about her life journey and how it has moved her to a different country, has completely shaped her and completely changed. And one of the things that I really like about my interview with Aleksandra is that she is such a kind soul, and you'll hear her in her message and you'll hear her kindness and gentleness. And she's giving hope, a message of hope, especially when we're feeling that maybe there's not a lot of hope. But if you look around, there is a lot of hope. I think the other thing that is really powerful is that when we look at people that go through adversity, it is amazing to see how their lives change and how God works through them to allow a process to facilitate where there is this change manifesting in such a way that maybe you would have never imagined that it would be. So, case in point, recently I was talking to someone and they said to me, have you heard about this global phenomenon around the chosen? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, this isn't really a plug for the chosen, but I just thought that it was remarkable, this story of how this got started, and I thought it would be wonderful to share with you. So, The Chosen was something that we have a person who literally was not doing well as far as what was going on in his life, and he was really struggling. So basically, we've got a gentleman called Dallas Jenkins, and he was working on a movie for Hollywood, and I guess he'd finished the movie. The movie was a total and complete bust. Didn't work out the way that he expected. And he started doing some shows or plays actually with his church. And he had called on a couple of people and he said, I'd love to have you as part of this play because I think you have a lot of natural talent and I think it would be great to support you and give you an opportunity to get you up on stage and do more with your talents. So that being said, they put on a production at the church, and it is a production that revolves around God. It revolves around the Christmas story of Jesus and baby Jesus being born and all of these different things. Well, several people had said to him, this is really phenomenal, and I think what would be really great is that you do this but on a larger scale and maybe push it out, to the whole entire world. So Dallas prayerfully asked for guidance around what to do with this, and he decided that he was going to give it a shot. And, he prayed on it, and prayerfully he was being guided that, he should probably give it a shot. So that's exactly what he did. He pulled some of these people that were working with him, acting with him, and they started to put together a script around the story of the characters that are in the Bible. And at first when I heard this, I thought, well, wait a second, there's, a lot of movies or stories or shows rather, of the particular books in the Bible that are already out there. And I was a little confused because I thought, well, somebody's trying to reinvent the wheel here, but they remarked to the characters. They could relate because he made them more relatable in the sense of this is my vision of how they would have been. This is my vision of how they would have been like real people in real life and give them a more human aspect. So in The Chosen, what they've done is they've literally taken this and they've taken this project, they've taken it out of the Hollywood arena and made it their own. So they did everything with public funding and just asked for donations for people to for people just to literally open their wallets and give donations. And this phenomenon has manifested so amazingly quickly that it's just unbelievable how this has been going like wildfire. And I can tell you, I've watched the first show and it moved me in a lot of ways. Mary Magdalene, they represent her being haunted, by demons that we all face or have had to face during our lifetime. And they all look different. They all have different shapes and colors of what kind of demons we've had to deal with. But her personal demons, they show her with these personal demons and actually getting to a breaking point. And when they bring Jesus in, they show him in such a way that he guides her out of this breaking point. And later, as you go through the seasons, you'll see Jesus again, where Mary Magdalene is being tripped up and she might spin backwards because she's suffering from post-traumatic stress, or it's something's triggered her and it's caused her to go backwards and be in a space that she could be in a place where she was, back in a space of healing and instead of being in a space of darkness. So as this has manifested and grown, Dallas Jenkins has literally said to everyone around the world, he said, I'm not making this a series that is going to be something that is up on Netflix or something like that. This is something that you can just download the Chosen app. And as I develop and create each episode, I'm going to release them. So it's not like it's on every week at Tuesday at 8 o'clock or something like that. It's not like that at all. He releases the episodes when they come to fruition as far as completion and puts them out to the public. So my understanding is that there'll be 7 or 8 seasons, and they're going to work through them appropriately through the crucifixion. And I'm not sure how much more they're doing beyond that, but they are on season 2. So if this is of interest to you, all you have to do is go to the app, and it's the Chosen app, and you can start watching it, right from there. So enjoy that if you choose to enjoy it. But the reason for me bringing it up is when we're faced with adversity, when we're faced with that, what do we do with it? What decisions do we make? I know in a lot of leadership courses, they talk about the story of the family that's mining for gold, and they are in a tunnel and they're digging and digging and digging and digging, and they've bought all this equipment and all of the tools and everything they need to mine and continue to mine for the gold. And the most remarkable part of the story is that they give up. They just give up, and they decide, you know what, we've been doing this for so long, don't want to do it anymore. We've been doing this for years, don't want to do it anymore. And just give up. And they take all their tools, they take everything that they've ever worked for, everything that they've ever worked for, and they just decide that they're done. They're going to take everything, they're going to give it back, give it away, they're going to get rid of it. So they go and they look for the local, I guess, bartering person who would be the person they'd sell their tools to. And the guy picks up all the tools from them. And basically they just go sell all their tools. They leave, and the man that buys all the tools from them, he takes the tools and he goes back into the mine and starts digging. And wouldn't you know that that family who just gave up on everything and lost everything because they put all this time and money and effort into something that they had a passion and goal for, when they gave up and the new people came in and started mining that same spot, they were 3 feet from gold. They were 3 feet from striking it rich. They were 3 feet from changing the direction and course of their lives. But it's the decision they made during adversity. So I ask you, what decisions are you making during times of adversity, and how is it shaping your life, and what is it doing for you or not doing for you? I think it's so important that we are proactive in our decision-making process, and that we're really taking the time to make some really good decisions, because if you're not doing that, you're going to end up in a result of other people making decisions for you. Now, there's times that may happen because you have zero control, but if there is something that you can do to take control, or have some sort of control, then that is the space that you want to operate from. So Mrs. Makowitz has our entire 6th grade class sitting in front of her, very young, impressionable little humans. And she asked us, what are you going to do with your life? And in 6th grade, I was floored because I thought to myself, well, I don't think I need to make this decision until I'm in 12th grade or when I'm 18 or when I'm an adult or some other place and time. But then I had this aha moment where I recognized that even though I'm in 6th grade, I have a lot of decisions I can make between now and then. I have a lot of decisions I can make about how I'm handling things at home, whether I'm choosing to be part of something that I don't want to be, or whether I just stay out of something, or what it is that I'm doing as far as being proactive for something I believe in, or stay out of something because I just am taking on too much. There's a lot of different ways of looking at things. So take the time to think about some of these questions. What are you doing to be proactive? And what are you doing to be proactive with your decisions during times that are uncomfortable? If you're in a situation where you're unemployed or you're looking for work, be proactive. Look for opportunities, create opportunities. If you're in a situation with your relationship, look for opportunities. There's so many opportunities in front of us right now, and they're all showing up in different ways and patterns and all of that. And for some of us, we may be in failing relationships, and maybe it is time that it served its course, or time or space or whatever, but look at the opportunity and ask yourself, what has this done for me? What has it done for my journey, and how has it improved me? And then for the people who are having great relationships and everything's in sync, again, ask yourself, what is this doing for me? How is it helping me or serving me? And live in a space of gratitude so that you really can authentically enjoy every single part of what's happening with your life. So next week when Aleksandra comes to us and she talks about taking advantage of your disadvantage, it speaks volumes to how many times people are at a disadvantage and how they turn their world around, how they turn their life around. Dallas Jenkins did it by creating The Chosen and turning it into a global phenomenon to share the story of Jesus, to share the story of the Bible and all the Bible stories, and create it in such a way that you would think they were living in 2021. The Leatherman created his own legacy by writing these beautiful poems, even though there's so much sadness, but you feel the love that he had for Margaret. You feel that in the words and the descriptions and the things that he shares. He took his disadvantage and turned it into an advantage by being a gift to the people that he crossed paths with on his 365-day journey throughout his life. For myself, as a little 6th-grader in Miss Makowitz's class, I would have never imagined my life to have unfolded the way that it did when I was that young. But it did. And the things that happened, the abuse, the emotional, the verbal, the physical, even the sexual abuse, all of that helped to shape me into the person I am today. I am profoundly filled with gratitude for the gift of knowledge and having the ability to understand and have empathy and compassion for any person who's ever experienced the things that I have experienced. I wouldn't wish anybody to go through those things, but I have deep, deep compassion and empathy for anyone who has. And what I've chosen to do with that is turn it into my own legacy, turn it into my own testimony of it is okay to live in a space where things don't go right. They never do. They never go right, right? Because we have this idea of what we want things to be, but in reality, there's all these different force fields that are happening, and everything is on its own trajectory of what is to occur. So that could be the people in your life, that could be job situations, it could be so many different things. And I think it's really important to recognize and identify what it is that you have the control to change and what it is that you can do with it. So recognize the pieces of you that still need healing and make a decision to work on that. Make a decision to be the very best version of yourself that you could possibly be. Because when you're the best version of yourself, and collectively, as every person does this healing work and becomes the best version of themselves, then collectively we've raised the vibrational field of planet Earth as our human force fields have ascended into a higher space. That is really, really powerful. And I know that sounds like a lot of work, but in reality, it's not a lot of work if you're healing a part of yourself that you don't have to take with you for the rest of your life. So for example, when I was young, I was always told over and over and over, well, you've got problems because your mother walked out or, just left. Well, you know what? I didn't feel that, but because people were saying it, I thought, oh, maybe I need to work on that part of me. So when I was 18, I decided, okay, now I can make my own personal decisions and take care of me. That's something I'm going to work on. And I did work on that with someone, and some of the things that came out, there was some truth. And I worked on healing those pieces of me. There were other things that people made judgments about that weren't necessarily true. But had they not given me a different perspective, I wouldn't have known that that's something I needed to work on. Had I not worked on it, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, maybe even 100 years, I would still be battling that war field, that battlefield of that space that wasn't healed. I've recognized that from a very, very young age. And it's all due to Mrs. Makowitz's comment about how every decision I make today in this moment is going to shape my life. So yes, I consciously made a decision that if there's something uncomfortable that I need to work through, that I just take it head on and work with it so that I don't drag it out for the rest of my life. That's something that is very, very, very profound, because not only is it profound for me, but it's profound for my friends, my family. Because if I'm having a hard time dealing with things because I didn't do my healing work, then they are going to hear about that. And maybe that's going to get kind of heavy for a long time. And do I really want to keep dumping on them like that? So think about how you're showing up and think about what it is that you're doing to be the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And that comes down to so many things. It comes down to even your small, basic choices, the ones that are about what are you eating and feeding your body and putting into your cells. What are you doing as far as what it is you're listening to? What are you feeding your mind? What are you doing as far as your relationships? Are they healthy? Are they unhealthy? Is it time to clean house? Is your physical house clean? Or do you need to go through that and clean up? Maybe there's things you're holding on to that just remind you of periods of time that weren't good. Or maybe they just don't make you feel happy. Maybe it's time to re-gift it, repurpose it, re-something, recreate, redesign, but just do something with it so that you feel good about it. Kind of like taking lemons and making lemonade. Change it. Make it something that you feel good about. So, as Aleksandra comes to us next week, you're going to hear an incredible story from a young woman that has done incredible things in the early part of her life. And it's really an engaging conversation because there's so many things that we could do personally to make changes, to build ourselves up, to make ourselves better. And I just ask you, what are you doing to make your life better? And if I were to pick up your earth angel feather off the ground, what would it be that your message would tell the world? What would your legacy be for the world? And is it something that you're proud of? Is it something that you feel like this world, this life, this everything has been worth it? Because we only get one shot at living our life. We only get one shot to be the best version of ourselves. So as we depart today, think about what it is that you're deciding, because every moment, every decision is shaping your life and the lives of the people around you. So have a beautiful, beautiful week ahead, wherever you are in the world. Do what it is that you can do to control your destiny. And make it a beautiful journey in the process. This is Catherine Daniels with Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace. We'll see you next time.